you're going to be tuning into this weekend's fight, here's a tip. Check out my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. Upgrade your fight experience this weekend with the official sports betting partner of UFC. Are you new to DraftKings? Check this out. New customers that bet just $5 will instantly get $150 in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use the code Sonnen. DraftKings, the crown is yours. That's right. New customers can bet just $5 on anything and receive $150 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings is giving new customers a shot to get in on the action all night long. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. DraftKings is the one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy where you have the chance to win cash prizes. Don't miss out on all the action this week at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings app today. Sign up using dkng.co/Sonnen or through my promo code Sonnen, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Chimaev and Cejudo in a ticket line outside the Olympic Games in Paris. Do you guys know this story? All right. As Henry is telling the story, and if anybody can have fun with themselves and tell a story accurately, even if it involves making themselves the brunt of it, it's Henry. So I'm very inclined to take Henry's story at extreme face value. Okay. He's telling the story, I would assume, to Kamaru Usman. And a little bit relevant for later in the story. But Chimaev, also in a ticket line, 50 feet away, so the story is told, sees Henry. And Henry's by himself, waiting in line. Chimaev is with a group of people, spots Henry, and yells to him, Henry Cejudo, you rat piece of... So Henry's looking around, man, who's yelling at me? Oh my goodness, that guy, oh my God, is that Chimaev? It's one of these things where I can only imagine what would be going through your mind, and you're doing such equations so quickly. Of worst case scenarios, I mean, you're surveying the scene. Is there anybody I know around here? Is there anybody I recognize that might come over in my direction? How many appear to be with him? Like, you're doing math very quickly, and now here Henry is, and is he going to respond? How do you respond? Not to mention it's 50 feet away. Now you're yelling, you're bringing attention to it. It's just one of these highly uncomfortable spots. But Henry, and it did not go further, by the way. There's no part of the story where Chimaev comes over. It's not like that. He stayed in his line. He stayed in his line. Henry speculated that Chimaev was upset with Henry, and Henry admitted and called himself a troll. And Henry then quickly made an analysis out of this and tied Chimaev's emotion that he showed in this moment to not being able to contain emotion prior to a fight. And Henry went on to illustrate the detriment that could cause. Okay. I'm not as interested in that as I am in what Henry said. I haven't seen, personally, I have not seen anybody take shots at Chimaev. I haven't seen opponents that have signed contracts take shots at Chimaev. Kevin Holland was, I would have to say, the closest, and he was trying to promote a fight that only had 1 day left. It was a last-minute change, and he walked right up to Chimaev. Walked right up to him and said, hey, put these in categories over here, right? Having a fight tomorrow, and aside from those 15 minutes, we're regular people. And Chimaev appeared to be fairly receptive to that, but did not seem as open to the concept that you have sport, you have promotion, that they are separate. It did appear to Chimaev, and in all fairness, to most can't see that line. It's all one thing. But I don't remember anybody else going after him. I just don't remember that. And if I was to use the Kevin Holland as an example of a level of emotion, sure, there's a press conference canceled and there was the water bottle story. You guys remember this? Because I'm a little loose on it, but it's something like this. I'm close enough. And if I was to use that as an illustration or example of emotion showed by Chimaev, and then I juxtaposed that with the performance of the fight, I could not come to the conclusion that Chimaev doesn't do well when he fights with emotion. It was one of Chimaev's most impressive performances, frankly. Okay. But what would have Henry said? And if I was to guess, like, let's say I wanted to break bad on Chimaev right now, right? We're doing a Chimaev roast. What would I say about him? The only weakness I have ever seen out of Chimaev is that he has had to cancel fights before. But I would not dare bring that in, considering one of those times he was on a respirator fighting for his life. I would not dare bring that in. So, what else do I got? Has Chimaev ever done something? Has he ever said anything? Has he been putting in opportunities that would make the boys jealous and unfair? It doesn't feel like that. As a matter of fact, there's a number of you that have called for a title fight for Chimaev for a number of years. He was 3 fights in when Dana White had to tell the media, stop talking about him in a world title fight. That is not going to happen. I see what you see. I see a real talent. That is not how it's done. He's going to have to prove those talents before we have that talk. He's going to have to get into the rankings. That was only 3 fights in. I think that a lot of people would look at all of the good works that Chimaev has done and not believe that he has been handed a massive amount of opportunities. In fact, his last fight was not even a main event, just for example. So, what is it that Henry would have said about Chimaev? I'm a little confused. And I haven't seen other guys do that. I do remember the time where he was invincible. I do remember the time where he was the talk of the town. I remember the time, years before he's ever signed in the UFC, when Brian Stann took to the stage, they asked him about the greatest unsigned talent out there, and he said, I've actually never met him, I've never even seen him, but there's this guy named Khamzat Chimaev, trains with Gustafsson's gym out there in Sweden, and he's a guy that people are saying should be. Like, I've heard these really wonderful things said, but I don't know where the weaknesses have come. I haven't seen them. And in the fights that turned out to be closer than we thought they were going to be, insert Gilbert Burns. Why would you ever think Gilbert Burns is going to be an easy fight? By the way, but what do you suppose Henry would have said? And the relevance a moment ago that I told you I assumed that he was saying this to Kamaru Usman is Kamaru, when he had his back and forth with Chimaev, to the point that it led to a fight, and there was a lot on the line, not to mention number 1 contendership, and not to mention coming out the backside. There was even controversy. There was a number of people that watched that. And to my memory, that was a split decision. One judge even gave it to Kamaru that night. So is that what Henry was doing? Like, was Henry being supportive of Kamaru? And in the process of being supportive to Chimaev, he was then forced to take shots at Chimaev. I'm just really curious what Henry would have said. I'm really curious what Henry would have done. And if I'm at all remotely close, if I'm going in the right direction, son of a bitch, that was over a year ago. Chimaev can really carry a grudge, huh? He took that with him all the way to Paris and to the ticket line. That was his first time seeing him. He could have looked the other way and ignored him. He shouts 50 feet just to let him know you're a rat. I mean, I find that very interesting. I must tell you, I do find that to be compelling in many ways. And I would like to know the genesis of it. Henry only went as far as to say he was a troll, that he was trolling Chimaev. Typically, that is a term reserved typically for online social media. So is that what it was? Is this something I can go search? I can go find out? What exactly is the beef? And I'm not even taking sides here, right? I'm open to hearing what happened, but it's very hard for me to close my eyes and imagine. Could you guys do it? Could you right now point out and give a hard time to Chimaev? Is there something that you could make fun of Chimaev where you feel that it would have legs, it would have ground, you would get support, people would listen, people would back you up? I don't see it. I haven't seen it yet. See an undefeated young guy, 2 different weight divisions. At one point stated to be the number 1 contender, now he's getting to go in there the future Hall of Famer and former world champion. I'm curious what Henry had. I'm curious what Henry said about Chimaev.